All right, welcome to this edition of Insights with Ovationz. I am your host, Aaron Ellis. You can find me at aaronellisofficial.com, and all my social media handles are also that. What we do on Insights with Ovationz is we love to showcase the talent and the subject matter experts we have on our platform that you can book as soon as tomorrow. You can book them to come into your organizations. They work one-on-one. They do all sorts of engagements that we love to help elevate them. And one of my favorite things to do is help you understand who the talent actually is. So we're going to dive in a little bit deeper today than probably normal. But to start with, I am joined with Martin Stark today. Martin is a two-time LinkedIn top voice. He's an expert and a coach, a keynote speaker, and an entrepreneur. He's been featured on CNN, The Guardian, BBC Sports, ABC News. And what I think is beautiful, and we'll probably start with this, Martin, too, is he comes from going through the worst fear of his life, more than 70 hospital admissions, I think I have that correct, 4 major surgeries or operations, and literally to become a trailblazer who encourages people, teams, and organizations to employ courage as a habit. I think that's a great way to put it, and be the positive change they want to see in the world. So, Martin, welcome, first and foremost.
Oh, thank you. What an intro. So I'm Martin
Pass it
Stark.
to you and share with us top of mind what you want to share first. And like I said, all things are on the table today. I'd love to hear who you are and be able to have the world hear who you are personally, professionally, and the value you bring.
So I'm Martin Stark, the courage champion. My pronouns are he, him. Before I start any podcast, I'm in Australia. I always acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land where I currently am, the Gamaraga people, and pay respects to elders past, present, and emerging. I do that because it's important to me to pay respect. And I think that's the hub of being courageous, is respect, and respect for yourself. And I define courage as taking ownership of fear, venturing forward with confidence and resilience. I tell you, my worst fear was a tracheotomy. I was in my second induced, just before my second induced coma. One thing to save my life was a tracheotomy. And it took my voice away, literally. This is my voice when using my vocal cords because of the damage from a tracheotomy. I had to learn to speak through my diaphragm, almost dying several times in my life, having the courage to work through that. Those experiences have shaped the course of what I do right now. We'll talk about boxing shortly. But my point is, when you own your fear and you venture forward next, when you're confident and resilient, any challenges that you faced in the past are part of your DNA. Use that information, use that gusto to take you forward and really propel yourself to do something like me, changing the world of boxing, getting huge media interviews, to have a cause of ending homophobia in sport like I have. Whatever you want to do, take that courage with you every single time.
I absolutely love that. So you talked about when you did you say own your fear? Is that the way you phrased it?
Yeah.
When you own your fear, I would say that's synonymous with being courageous, honestly. And obviously you had your path on how you learned to own your fear and how you had to be courageous. Maybe you were forced to be courageous in a sense, in the medical sense, right? Yet you've moved that into empowering others to be courageous. And I know one of the talks that you do that I saw a title around was like sparking the courage within. How do you do that with other people, with teams, with organizations? How do you actually get them to spark that courage within? What's something that you do?
So the most impactful thing is storytelling, which is the world's oldest and, in my view, the world's best form of communication. This is the relatability. And I share my story getting the pathway to courage. Then I talk about different types of courage. So moral courage, taking a firm stand for what you believe in. Steadfast courage, being resolute, focused, purposeful. Physical courage, acting bravely in the face of fear or pain. Now, I describe something as a courage bridge. So one of my favorite stories as a kid were the 3 billy goats gruff. There's the troll under the bridge.
Yeah.
Now, imagine that troll isn't actually a troll, but is actually your fear. And you replace that fear with courage, and it's the courage bridge. and the grass is greener on the other side, and the only thing you need is to cross that bridge with courage. But your courage is anybody who's scared to cross that bridge and join you in that field of abundance. And I describe 5 steps of courage. The first is starting from a place of courage. If you're scared, we're all scared. But if you start from thinking, I can do this. If I fail, it's fine. Rather than, that's the difference. The second is by leaning into fear. Fear is an excellent source of information. It tells you why you're feeling a certain way. Use that to guide you into your decision making, to lean into that fear. The third step is committing to your values. This is the moral courage again, but really committing to your values, because integrity, trust. The reason we buy something from an organization or product is because it has made an impact. And often when there's an alignment of values, that's where you get the speaking gigs, the sales, the jobs that you've been hired for, because there's been an alignment of values, your value.
Right, exactly.
Fourth step is make courage the norm around you. So accept where people are at, they're making mistakes, inspire them with your courage, and reinforce with good language when you see courageous behaviors. And the final step is simply get on with it. Literally, just be courageous.
Yeah. Just get on with it. Well, so you something that really jumped out at me when you said that, and I think is a key part of courage. And you literally pointed towards it. You said it, but you said this is why you end up getting the engagements, the sales, the speaking engagement, whatever it is, right? Is alignment with your values.
Yes.
Who you are, and that's the way I would phrase, like really understanding, embracing who you are, and that literally, energetically, is what's going to equate to those things that you're looking for in success. Would you say that's correct?
I agree. And the classic example is you go for a job interview and they go through the scenario: situation, task, action, result, star. It means star because you're the star. And you're having to relate examples when you've achieved something, overcame a challenge. What do you think? What do you believe? And in a classic job hiring, they'll ask for 2 referees, people who are talking about you, talking about your value. Your values are coming through in the examples that you give. Take that one step further. I spent 15 years in tech procurement. Biggest contract I negotiated was 300 mil, and some to a few $1,000s. But imagine a large tender. In the tender response, you will be adding customer references. And again, it's that validation, it's that values, the value you'll bring, but the values. Are you a good person to work with? Are they a great supplier? Because nobody is going to risk bringing on board a supplier who's going to be disruptive and not deliver. They want suppliers who can achieve and exceed. And that's how you get more sales as well. You grow the account through delivery. It comes back to those values.
I think too, I love how you said you grow through delivery, and you'll have these references, or I think you call them referees in your terminology, that are going to basically speak towards your value. I think I love where this conversation is going, because I believe that, like you're talking about too, value is something you need to cultivate from within. You need to understand it in yourself to be able to transfer that value. And when somebody calls on a reference, you don't want them to be robotic and say, yes, he does steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, blah, blah, blah. You want them to speak towards your personality and how you flowed through the engagement, right? He was wonderful to work with. He was always on time. He made me feel great. I knew that he valued the work. He made me, made our company feel like we were valuable to him, stuff like that. Not necessarily the tangible things, but our value, from my perspective, correct me and I'd love to hear your point on this, but our value is somewhat intangible, and we express it in the tangibles. But what we really want is for people to express the intangible when they share what our value is with people.
It's what you bring to the table. And I love that with Nobody Studios, you bring yourself to the table. But what do you bring? You bring your personality, your capabilities, your thought of mind. Your ability to do something is often up here. you have the skills, and there may be other candidates going for those roles that you're the best candidate for, or the best person to help that customer. But it's those intangibles. It's the way you are committed to delivering for your client, but building that meaningful relationship. It's your integrity, it's your courage, it's your expertise. Win-win in a tender is perfect for two reasons. You want to ensure the tender delivers its objectives, so you get that impeccable service. But you also want the right supplier to win, because you want them to deliver that impeccable service. So if it's win-lose, nobody wins, because you won't repeat the business. Often in a negotiation, it's the chest beating. I've got the price lower, yes, for certain things. When it comes to quality, when it comes to delivering for your clients, you want partners who deliver to your expectations, so then you can deliver exceptional service. That's where courage comes in those crucial conversations, in shaping the conversation beyond price and service into them being part of your organization's fabric and DNA. And that's where employing courage as the habit comes in. It's all those things I talked about earlier.
Yeah, I love that. One of the other topics that I think you're going to have something to say on, I think I'd love to hear your perspective on, is leadership, and that's a broad term. But in my engagements with corporations and organizations and stuff, leadership is always something they need help in, whether they see it that way or not. They'll come to me with a problem. I'm like, oh, that's a leadership issue, right? And the way I read it on something I read about you is like leading with purpose. And I know what that means to me, but when I say like leader, right, talk about leadership, what comes to mind? Again, whatever comes to mind is exactly what I want to hear. And leading with purpose, what does that mean to you, and how do you transfer that into those that you work with?
So again, leading with purpose. There's a reason why we do something. There's a reason why we work where we work, or why we work with the people we work with. We belong to certain clubs or societies. We do things at the weekend, and that's the purpose. So it's our essence, it's our core, it's our integrity. It's that values conversation again. We all want to feel included. We've all experienced the pain of exclusion, and the difference when somebody says, bring your seat to the table, come and join us. When we're at school, if we're being bullied, somebody says, stop doing that. That creates that sense of belonging. Coming to the interview conversation again, or supply conversation again. There are reasons why some companies are seen as dream companies to work for: the culture, the values. So that when you lead with purpose, that's what you're creating. You're creating that culture where people want to work, where suppliers want to deliver excellent products and services to, where customers want to buy from, because it connects with those values. And it's courageous. It's hard to do this.
Yeah, I would agree. That's a really good way to put it. It's courageous. It's hard to do this. Now, let me ask you this question, because this has been something that's people are embracing the understanding around this more and more, at least in my experience with working with organizations. But let's even go back 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 10 years ago. There was such a separation in people's minds on mindset and skill set and mindset. And like they needed to know how's this going to help my bottom line? I'm finding now more that, like, when I go in, I do a talk about working with and within your employees. So it has to do with really bridging the personal gap and going deeper within, right? And talking about some of those areas where everybody connects on a deeper level, even on the surface deeper levels, like what they do on the weekend, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. But can you speak towards that a little bit, as far as your perspective on how we can help those slow to the learning curve, understanding that personal and professional are connected, and that it really is going to take to make those kind of companies that are like, I want to work there, I want to interact with this company, I want to do business with this company, because you and I understand what it means to take the courage to build the companies that way. Can you speak towards that and any kind of narratives that you have utilized in helping them understand how it's going to help their bottom line, if that's where their mind is? How is this going to drive revenue?
So as an example, let's go to early 2020. lockdowns.
Mhm.
Everybody's having to work from home, work remotely.
Yep.
What do companies do? What do leaders do? They prioritize well-being. They organize the Zoom catch-ups. They make sure they have daily stand-ups. How are you going? Connecting with customers, pivoting. So there was no choice to survive. That was the only thing that could be done. I mentioned $300 million contract negotiated. Now,
Mhm.
in the first few months of that contract delivery, I wasn't really involved in the ongoing delivery, just the relationship management. But I said to one of the CEOs of the company that I worked for at the time, we need to do a workshop. We need to get a day where everybody's together. And that's crucial. You need to have regular ongoing onboarding of teams in a conversation, but it's more in those one-to-one catch-ups and performance reviews. It's more than how is your sales target going? How are you achieving this? It's how are you today? What's working for you? What's not working for you? It's those courage conversations again, removing fear from all of this. Is it safe for somebody to speak up? Is it safe for somebody to share their opinion? What happens behind closed doors when somebody says, oh, that person said this today, can you believe it?
Mhm.
The integrity of the leadership. I delivered a workshop for a company in 2021 with a leadership team. And in the pre-briefing, it was making sure I had guiding these conversations, starting at the leadership. What do you think? The CEO and their entire leadership team. The CEO opening up, and the CEO was on board with this, prompted the discussion.
Mm. Yep.
Some people I was guided towards, can you ask this person next? And of course, they were on board with that because it's a safe environment. But it prompted discussion from other people in the organization and the team. So this is about visible leadership. If you can't do this, how can you expect everybody else in your team to do this?
I love that. I absolutely love that. There's like in my companies and whatnot, I completely foster a zero judgment, open dialogue, show up however you show up. And I have special plans for that where people know they can come in literally, they can come in, they can cuss, they can say whatever they want, they can be mad, and I'll literally meet them with zero judgment. We'll unpack it, right?
Yeah.
Because when I've seen companies not do that, it just builds up and builds up, resentment build up, and then people's deductive reasoning, the way it works is if this, then that is usually on the negative slant. It's not if this, then that in a positive way, right? So I work towards making sure that that's something that's constantly open as far as communication goes, and that there's no issue whatsoever. Whatever they bring up to me, zero judgment around it whatsoever. And it's created for me and my companies. It helps bring velocity to the companies. It helps bring this compounding effect where we're clearing the energy on an energetic level. We're just clearing the energy regularly once a week with everybody. So nothing builds up. And I personally have been able to see the productivity go up. But you're right. I love that you brought up that it takes courage to do these things we're talking about. The norm is, well, it's not normal. We don't want to get involved in personal lives.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I think more and more in my experience, the companies are realizing they have to. They just don't know how to do it. And it sounds like you're one who's spearheading the how, which I think is amazing. Like I got that from reading about you and what I'm sharing, what you're sharing with me today. You've lived the how in your own life, in your own experiences, and now you're transferring that into other people's experiences and helping them find that courage and stuff, which I think is amazing. We're close to time, but I want to give you one more stance here on like final thought. Like if this was all you could share with everybody here in the last minute here, what would that be?
I am changing the most difficult sport in the world to change. Boxing. One person, one mobile phone, one computer, getting the support of the World Boxing Council, getting the appreciation of the World Boxing Council, getting world boxing champions to stand up against homophobia, get people involved in the sport who's never been involved or feel a sense of belonging, get the CNN interviews, get all of that. That's one person. building a global movement, predominantly on LinkedIn, through courage. Imagine the impact you can make with your courage, and if your organization had courageous people in them.
I love that, Martin. Well said. I wish we had more time because there's a rabbit hole we can go down there. I think would be amazing. Maybe we'll have you on again to speak about that, because I just had a whole bunch of other ideas come up. Everybody, I want to thank you for joining us again for another episode of Insights with Ovationz. We've been joined with Martin Stark. Again, to find out a little bit more about Martin, you can go over to ovationz.com and you can book him. You can bring him into your organization. You can talk to him one-on-one. You can literally start to embrace and learn what he means by employing courage as a habit. Thank you, Martin, for being with me, and we will see you guys next time.